Cool, now you can hear me. Guys, I'm too agitated. I can't stand behind that podium, okay? So, I hate students, okay? Let me put it out there. I do, okay? So, because did you see what they did at CPUT? Just now in May, oh my goodness, they burned the campus, all right? And then what's worse is they literally took the guns off the police and they were shooting at the police on campus. And South African police is scary, okay? So I'm like, whoa, what am I even doing? But then I thought, that's not my experience, so why is this happening? And I did what any person would do if they want to know the truth about something. I went to ask Twitter. And on Twitter, it was very clear what the problem was, right? It's all this free education. These students, they don't appreciate anything. They don't have respect for anything, and it's definitely their parents' fault. So, I try not to teach my kids like that, to do that sort of thing, and I don't know any other parent that would willingly do that. So I decided to rather go to the root of the problem, the students. And I asked them, I said to them, guys, what is happening? Why is this actually how did it get to this point? And their answer really, it shouldn't have surprised me. It didn't really, because it was very simple. There were kids still sleeping on the floor at campus, okay, sleeping in TV rooms and in the hallways, no beds, right? And I'm like, but it's May. It's not beginning of the year anymore, it's May. And I actually went to pick students up in those situations. I took my little bus, and we went to pick them up. And I was like, but 5 months later, how can this still be a problem? Okay? And so you can unpack your bags. You don't have to go to Canada anymore, because our future and our leadership and our students, they're actually quite patient. It took them 5 months to get to that point. Right, so I am very positive about the leadership in this country for the future, and it's up to us really to nurture them and get them through this very sensitive time of becoming self-reliant and self-disciplined while they're trying to study and leaving their family homes for the first time. Okay, right, so now I'm like, okay, well, why is it that students are then still sleeping at campus? And the reasons there were very simple, but the answers aren't always that clear-cut, or the solutions to the problems. And the one thing really is around, they just couldn't find accommodation in their budget that was affordable, that where they could go and stay. Doesn't mean there wasn't space somewhere, just means that they couldn't afford it. So there's a big gap in affordable accommodation, and what can a student afford? Nothing, guys. They can't afford anything. So you mustn't ask, what can a student afford? You must ask, well, what can their parents afford? What can the bursaries, what can NSFAS afford? And you take that amount and you work it backwards when you look at what services and what type of properties you can provide to these students. Okay, now we all know, according to the department, that there's about a 400,000 bed shortage of purpose-built accommodation in 2023. We heard from the association that represent 60,000 beds. So if we say, let's snap our fingers, and tomorrow they double up, we are still roughly about 300,000 short. But we don't have to worry, because the government told us that they are going to build this for us through the Student Housing Infrastructure Program over the next 10 years. And if you're a student now and you can wait for 10 years to study and hope nobody have babies in that time, then you're set, no problem. But unfortunately, it doesn't work like that. And even though there's a shortage, these students yes, there's a few on campus, but there's still hundreds of thousands of them staying somewhere. And they are staying in these small houses that we hate so much. They're staying in the small providers that have no support, no visibility, no innovation in that space to help them provide a good product for their students. So how can we bring innovation and change to them? How can we assess them? How can we help the VUT landlords that are for real, that are trying to make a little bit of extra income for their families, trying to create generational wealth, okay, through providing student accommodation, and getting them out of this mess of process, and they're caught in the middle. You know, I always say we have a lot of student accommodation that's Woolies, okay? There's so much Woolies, but very few people can afford Woolies. And then we have lots of these weird little spaza shops, and you're scared to try the chicken, but you have to cook it and see what's going to happen. But where's Checkers, right? And through supporting and helping these smaller little houses developments in that space, we can really help to create to fill the gap, the housing and the demand gap. And that is where I think a big answer to what we're facing is actually lying. So then I also wanted to talk about innovation and in purpose-built student accommodation. And I got my 17-year-old to install ChatGPT for me, and I put that in there. And there was such a big focus that came out of that on when you put in student accommodation, on the housing and the accommodation space. But I want to put it out there that it's not just about the accommodation, it's about the student. So what are the innovation and things we can do to create change in society, to create change in the leadership that we're preparing for tomorrow? How do we take that and how do we put the focus back on students without, by the way, increasing the cost? Because I think for student landlords, that's obviously a big thing. Now, next time, instead of preparing and planning to put a gym in your property, there's a few other things that you can do with that space that can create a much bigger impact on students and their lives and so on. And whether you have five students or you have 5,000 students, you can definitely implement any of these different initiatives. And by the way, I do this in all the properties that we own or manage. Okay, so the first thing is around leadership development. Okay, and it sounds like, but isn't that like what the university or whatever's going to do? No, this is us. We have to do this as business owners, as parents, as brothers, as sisters. This is us. We have to do it for that person's child, because where's my child going to be tomorrow, and who's going to help them in that moment? So it's about that. But how do we make it practical? And it's very simple. Okay, we have house committees, we have house leaders. In that, they create a very nice CV for themselves that they can take out there and get a job once they finish studying. And then, as part of that as well, we do networking sessions with alumni. That's a new thing we're doing, of CPT, UWC, wherever we are. And we have these networking sessions where these guys, whether they're employees, business leaders, they come and help and network with the students. The second thing is really very simple as well. It's about entrepreneurship and innovation. So instead of putting that gym in there, create a space where someone can run a little business themselves. So provide that space for the student. And by the way, whether you provide it or not, they're going to do it anyway and irritate you because there's going to be hair everywhere because we all do each other's hair. But create the space for them to do that. Help them to connect with other students who are studying accounting that can come and do their books for them, that can do it right. so that by the time they walk out after 4 years, they have a track record, okay, that they can then present to the business that they want to work at. I've had so many students approaching me to help with marketing, social media management, creating a YouTube channel for us. So make use of that workforce that you have, right? So that's entrepreneurship. Then the third thing that I think is very, very important to create holistic leaders is around social responsibility, okay? And that for me is, and we have so many issues as student landlords with the community, okay? They don't like us. We make noise, we have parties, you know, we bring crime into the area. These are all the things I hear. But turn that around and be part of your city improvement district programs. Volunteer, get the students. And by the way, if they did something they weren't supposed to, instead of fining them, get them to do community service hours rather. And in the process, building in the community and uplifting rather than, you know, ending up in carte blanche like the guys in Bloemfontein did. And they can do that through a structured program, through some help, some guidance, and so on. Very simple things you can also do, like, you know these guys that come and they scratch in your bin and they make a mess and you're very angry at them. So we got our students now to put their recyclables in a black bag on top of the bin or next to the bin. Because they are now giving a little bit of respect towards someone that's also trying to support their family. And they don't have to go through the bin. They're not messing up the place. And they know by now that they can just take that and go. And then the last thing is around food. Guys, our students are still hungry. They do have these allowances. They're sending it home. Some of them go and party with it. The majority don't. Okay? And there's still a lot of them that can't study. Why do food go missing in houses? Okay, it's not pizza that goes missing, it's basic food stuff. Because they don't, for some reason, they run out of money in the middle of the month. So what we've done now is to partner with businesses. Guys, this is now all we've been talking about, partnering with businesses and all of these things. So it's about talking to SPAR, and we said to the owner there, we said, or the franchise manager, we said, listen, you have this food that you prep every day. At the end of the day, what do you do with that extra food? And they chuck it away. So now we said, can we have that to give to our kids? But at the same time, we also don't want just to get a handout, okay? And we arranged that the recipients of the food then give back. And they go and support the social initiative that SPAR supports. So they now go and watch abandoned babies in the time that they can. So I want to say that you can do all of that with a little bit of time and someone with a heart that's into that sort of thing. It's not everybody's cup of tea. But it can definitely be done, and it won't break the bank. Won't cost you anything really to put that in place for them. And you just never know. In this process, you might have the next South African president that goes through your house, and you might inspire the next super entrepreneur like Elon Musk in there as well. And then you can say, I know that guy from when he was at my house. So guys, we can definitely do this. Thank you.